Private labels have done really well during the economic downturn. Consumers have looked to save money as much as possible. Retailers have reacted to this by promoting their private label ranges, and consumers have been able to trade down to private label products across a range of product areas. Consumers don't shop exclusively just in economy private label ranges. They'll move between economy, mid-priced and premium where available, and therefore they can choose where to save money and where to spend quite a lot of money.
Private label is at its most advanced in Western Europe and North America, and that's really to do with the trust that retailers have gained among consumers in these regions. It's still in its infancy in emerging regions like Africa and the Middle East and Asia.
So we've seen a real growth in private label in Eastern Europe as Western European retailers like Tesco, Carrefour and Ahold expand into these Eastern European countries, taking their private label ranges with them. Again, the same thing with North American retailers moving into Latin America. We've seen expansion in terms of consumer interest.
Private label tends to do best in commodity categories, so areas like oral care, hair care, bath and shower. And these are really areas where consumers feel that they can trade down to private label products without really having a difference in quality in the products. Beauty and personal care has traditionally been one of the areas of consumer goods with one of the lowest proportions of private label penetration. Now, during the recession last year, private labels saw the highest growth globally that it's seen in the last 5 years. But despite this, private label still only has a 2% percentage share of total global beauty and personal care sales in 2009. So it's still very low.
Private label has become a central element of every retailer's strategy. And in terms of how they're using this, they are expanding their ranges to a 3-tier range. So in terms of a value entry level product, mid-priced and a premium, which enables retailers much better to encourage consumers up and down the pricing scale, as has been seen during the economic downturn. The other part of what they're trying to do, as being shown by Walmart in the US and a couple of other US retailers, is actually restricting the range of brands that are available on a shelf space to give more prominence to their private label products over branded products, therefore almost forcing consumers to choose their private label ranges. The steps that retailers are taking at the moment in terms of taking branded products off the shelves and really promoting their own private label brands is creating a real sense of private label as being a differentiator between one company and the next. So as retailers have become very similar in terms of the range of branded products that they stock, it's really going to be the private label brands that differentiate them between, from a consumer point of view, from one retailer to the next. In this light, private label brands will ultimately become a brand in their own right. And we've seen this a number of times internationally at the moment, with things like Safeway's Organics range being sold not just through that company's own stores, but also through other US-based retailers where the company doesn't directly compete geographically, and then also internationally into markets like throughout Latin America and Asia Pacific. And even more recently in the UK, Waitrose has started selling its private label brands through other UK-based retailers as a way of extending the reach of their products and garnering new sales and brand loyalty. Moving forward, we're expecting brands to be increasingly squeezed by the expansion of private label products. In those areas where private label is already well established, we're expecting the share to really increase as retailers remove 3rd, 4th or 5th tier brands to give prominence to only their private label brands and the top 1 or 2 products that consumers want to see. In terms of how branded manufacturers can react to this, This will be the real development probably over the next sort of 5 to 10 years. And it's probably likely that we're going to see branded manufacturers either work increasingly with retailers so that the products meet the retailer's needs, so that there's less desire for them to look for private label alternatives. Or alternatively, we're going to expect manufacturers to try and deal increasingly one-on-one with the consumers.